Okay, operations on functions. So this would be when I give you just equations to work with. So on your test, please be careful on what you're going to name your new function. So this one is already indicated. The new function will be called h of x. So I'm going to have to use the appropriate labels. So h of x equals the f function plus the g function okay, that's what it would look like. And on the test, I've asked you to simplify everything you possibly can. So in this situation, let's combine those two numbers. And that's it. Okay? I have this mistake often. People start to factor that. Okay? Factoring is actually the opposite of simplifying. Okay, so think about 4 times 5. It would simplify to 20. I don't want to all of a sudden cause 20 to turn into factors 4 times 5. That's not what I'm doing. So simplify. Okay, subtract. So h of x equals f of x minus g of x. And there's a mistake on my paper that I did, so you are going to have to look up at mine and tell me what I did wrong. What is wrong with how I did this? You have to minus that whole function, okay? So obviously when I added, I didn't put brackets because it doesn't make a difference. But subtracting causes everything from that unit to change. Okay, so I don't know if you want to star that and make a note when you're studying. Make sure when you're subtracting, you're doing that with brackets. Okay, times, see if you can do that one on your own. It will be a whole FOIL system, so give me the 4 parts of your FOIL there. And I actually am finding nothing to combine on it too, so that was it once I FOILed. Okay, and the last one is division, so the f function divided by the g function. So if my instructions are, can you simplify to the most possible way, is there a way that we can simplify this one? Yeah, we could factor that. And you recognize that it's a difference of squares. So we're going to talk about a few more things even though it doesn't ask. Back to the rationals unit. Is there any value for x that is non-permitted? Do I have any domain restrictions? Look at the original. Is there some problem? X can't be -3. What would physically be going on this graph? A hole. Maybe it'd be important for us to figure out where that hole is exactly. -3, comma. What? Plug negative 3 in there. Negative 6. So now if I ever asked any questions about what is the domain or range, okay, your domain would be x is any real number except negative 3, and y is any real number except negative 6. Okay, so we have to jump over that spot. So just be careful with domain and range questions. You're going to have to go back to your rational rules. So this one, the degree was higher on the top. So we didn't think about anything except for our whole. What if the degree is higher on the bottom? Do you remember that rule? Asymptote where? Y equals 0. What if the degrees are the same? What's going to go on? You divide and you get a number. Y would equal some number. Okay? Question E. Out of the 4 above, which operations would, if you change the order of the operations, change the result? So, in other words, if I had changed this to g of x plus f of x, would I get the same thing or a different thing? If I switched the order. Same. What if I was to switch on a subtract? Would it change or keep the question? Change. So you would have a change with subtraction. And what else would you have a change with? Division. Okay? Multiplication and adding two things doesn't matter which way you do them. Okay, so let's make a chart here. And let's go x. What are all the x values on my domain? Where do I want to start x out? Has to be where they both exist, right? So I can't be there or there. Can't do that part. So -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's list the f function. We are at 0, -1, -2, -1, back to 0, end at 1. That was the f function. The g heights, 1, 2, 3, 4. You know what? This is a little bit off, but I think it was supposed to be 3 and then 2. So we'll just go with the whole numbers there. Okay. Can we divide and conquer here? People that are closest to the door, can you do the add numbers? Naya's row, can you do subtract? Xander's row, can you do times? And then the last row, can you get all the division numbers? And then we'll just copy each other's. Okay, Mark, how are you feeling with your add numbers? Pretty confident? 0 plus 1, you got that nailed? What do we got in the whole column? Go. Yep.
1,
Yep.
1,
Yep.
3, 3.
Okay. An agreed amount on that first row? It's good? Jacob, how are you feeling with subtracting? And you have to do it the F and then subtract the G. Did you do it in that order?
Sure.
Okay, well, let's see what you got. Go ahead.
-1.
Yeah.
-3.
Yeah.
-5.
Yep.
-5. -3. -1.
Yes, concur. You did it. All right, Gavin, how are you feeling about your multiplying here?
E.
Let's see what you got.
0,
Yeah.
-2, -6, -4, 0.
Someone agreed with him on that? All right, one of the Nicks, how about? Which?
0,
0?
-0.5, -0.66 repeating, -2.5, 0. Oh, sorry, it was -0.25, my bad.
Yeah.
0 and 0.5.
Agreed? Okay, so the add graph should look like this. 1, 1, 1, 3, 3, 3. And then you just connect the dots. Am I good to move away from the chart? Everyone's got their numbers from the chart? Okay, so you're going to basically have a page on your test that looks exactly like that. Just do the chart and just go slow and steady with your math. The last question at the bottom there just says, if you were to ever do the G function divided by the F function, would you have any problems? So think about doing these numbers divided by those numbers. Where would you have problems? Which X values would you have a problem with?
2 and 2.
You would have problems because you can't do 1 divided by 0 and you can't do 3 divided by 0. Okay, so those would cause problems or restrictions. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, let's talk about restrictions. What is the restriction going on this graph?
X would be greater or equal to -2.
X would have to be greater than or equal to -2 so that we don't have to square root a negative value. And what about this one? Any restrictions with this graph?
Greater than 3.
It can, X cannot equal.
Cannot equal 3, just that one value. So if I did the add, so if I added them, I would have both problems. So I have to be bigger than or equal to -2, but I can't be at 3. So do you want to write it as a interval? I could go from -2 up to 3, but I have to skip over 3. I have to be above -2. Does that make sense? So if you're thinking on a number line sense, as a number line sense, that's what's happening, right? We're here, we can be BB, we'd have to skip over that value and keep going. Okay, so if we did the division, it would be the same thing. I would just have the same problems. I'd have to accept both. And this last one actually changes. There's one difference in the last question in our domain. There's one thing that changes. What is the one thing that changes now?
Cannot go all the way to -2.
You can't be exactly at -2 because now you're going to create a division at 0. So the one thing I'm going to change is I'm going to turn the hard bracket into a soft bracket. Okay, before I could square root 0, no problem. But now, if I make that the square root of 0, I'm creating a division of 0, and that won't work. Okay, so just some thinking about a lot of past math experiences that you've had. Okay, this question is, can you just give me anything, 2 things that would add to that? So, endless answers. You all could have a different answer. So, pick something. Just make sure what you add together would total to be that. Okay, everybody probably has a different answer. That's great. Just make sure that you add them up. It makes that. And multiplying, I think there's probably only one option here, or there's another one, but I don't want you to put that one. Okay, can you factor that? Does something multiply to 20 and add to 12? Multiplies to 20. Did you pick 10 and 2? when I said there is another option, but I'm not going to give you points if you do it because you're trying to be a smarty pants. Your other option would be this function times 1. Okay? That's too easy. Don't do that. But it's right, but don't do that. Okay, composite functions, input, output. Oh, okay, here. It's not labeled, but it says f of x is the line that starts at negative 4, 0. So this one is f of x, and the v is the g of x. Okay, so at negative 3, where's the g? Negative 3, the g is at a height of 2. Now, at 2, the f function has a height of 3. Yeah, make sure you're just following the right path. Okay, so the f function, the straight line, when it's at 3, has a height of 3.5. Should we go with that? Is that okay? And when you're at 3.5, the g, the v line, has a height of 2. Okay, negative 2, what's the f line's height? 1. Now, the f line, when we're at an x of 1, the height is 2.5? Is that what we're going with? Okay, this is a 3. So we got to do 3 things here. So g of negative 1, the height is 0. Okay, so I have a bunch of brackets here. f of 0. That's what I'm going to do now. So 0, the f line has a height of 2. Then the f line at 2 has a height of 3. Okay, what does this mean again? It means the inverse function. What does the inverse function actually tell us to do? Flip x and y. Are you also okay with me doing that as the input output changes? So this means an output of 3, which is a height. There's a height of 3, so now I'm going backwards and I'm trying to get the x value, and you're working on the f line. So where does the f line have a height of 3? So the x value this time is 2. So that's a backwards question. Okay? Otherwise, the rest were given x, what's y? Given x, what's y? And this is opposite. Okay, inputs again with composite. So put a 3 into the g function. So 3 squared minus 2 equals 7. So what is f of 7? So that's into this one. So 7 plus 1 equals okay, I think I'm gonna try to let you do all the A, B, C, D. Just go for it on your own here. Eight 23 7 47. Good with those numbers? 8 23 7 47. No one's saying otherwise, so I'm going to assume somebody's matching. Okay. Inputting with no actual value, but just functions. So this means the input is G, and you're going to put it into the F. So this goes into that. You replace the X with new stuff. Okay, the next one says to put F into the G. Okay, that's what it would look like. So replace that. Okay, if it doesn't say simplify, I'm actually good. If it does say simplify, we got to work some stuff out here. We're FOIL and collect, okay? So FOIL and collect is the simplify process. So please don't forget FOIL. Anything squared, binomials squared, is always a FOIL. Okay, and the last question is to graph this one that we just did. So are we safe to say it is a parabola shape, right? Can you tell me one quick thing you might know about this parabola? Y-intercept is -1. And do you know what I'm actually going to do to graph it? I'm going to look at this form, because this form tells me my transformation stuff. So where is my starting location? What kind of shifts have I done here? Which direction? 1 to the what and 2 to the what? 1 in which direction? Left 1. And what is that other thing? What direction? 2, which way? Down 2. So can you figure out the rest of your parabola? Okay, I did the basic 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9 pattern to get a few more points there. Okay, last page. Graph h of f of x. So we're inputting what into the what? So the f function is going to have to go in to replace the h function. And this one says I can call it y because it defined it as y equals that. So that's that. How do you graph this? What kind of shape is it? It's a radical, which looks like that. That's a radical shape. Where's the shift? 1 in which direction? Left 1. And it's basic. There's no multiplier. There's no negative reflections. So what is basic movement on an? We're going to go over up. Do you remember that pattern? 1, 1, 4, 2, 9, 3. The opposite of squaring is square rooting, right? So it's bringing a lot of stuff back, which is good because you got to know it for the exam. Okay, compare the domains of this composite versus this composite. So this one is the one we just did above. So we just did this one. So what is the domain of that one then? From -1 to infinity. Okay, so this one, let's figure this out. I'm just going to write them down here. So this one does the reverse order. You have to put the h into the f. The h goes into the f this time. So what do we know about the restriction? Mathematically, when you look at it, the only thing that's restricting is square rooting x. So what do we already know about square rooting x? Where do we always have to be? X would have to be greater or equal to 0. Okay? In a graphing sense, if you wanted to think about graphing it, this shifts it up 1, and then it just goes that way, kind of, right? So 0 to infinity.